Hello, welcome back to the VMP Performance channel. My name's Jeremy, and today we're going to be working on a Gen3R install on a 15 to 17 F-150. Let's get our wrenches out and get to work. First of all, we're going to disconnect this battery and get set up to work. Next, we're going to remove the coolant from the system and get this air cleaner out of our way. I prefer to use a fluid evacuator. It makes a lot less mess. Taking the vacuum lines off the back side of the air intake tube, and we're going to remove this air box. So we're going to remove the coolant bypass hose off the top of the air intake. Set that guy over to the side. So now we can remove the top of your air cleaner housing. Take your two clips off. We already have the vacuum lines off. We'll be removing the lower intake housing now. It's these two push clips here and a 13mm against the fender well. Now we're going to remove the Degas bottle. These are 10mm bolts. So here's a nice little trick I like to do so I don't make so much mess, is I remove the heater hose top. Go ahead and take your fluid evacuator, and this can thread all the way down to the back side of the water pump. Let your coolant level drop down below this hose, and then go ahead and pull this hose off for your Degas bottle. Now we're removing the brake booster hose. This is a four-wheel drive truck. Your application may look a little bit different if you have two-wheel drive. Now we'll remove the PCV line. And we're going to remove the passenger side PCV line. You're going to set all these vacuum lines off to the side to be modified and reinstalled later. Now we're going to remove the fuel route. We're going to start by taking the pressure off of this line. We're going to get ourselves a rag, push that back nice and slow. Hardly any pressure on it. Go ahead and wrap this with a rag just in case it wants to kick any fuel out at you. We're going to remove these isolators. And now we're going to unplug the fuel injectors. Take your 4 10mm bolts out. So now we're going to take the coolant bypass hose and the purge solenoid off, and we're going to save them for later. These are two 8mm bolts. We do not need the purge solenoid bolts anymore. You can just put those right back where you found them. Now we're going to remove the intake. Take your throttle body connector off. And there are 6 8mm bolts down in here. It's always good to go ahead and blow out your valley before you pull your intake out so you don't have dirt falling into your cylinder heads. Now pull your intake forward and you're gonna pull it over to the side to gain access to these connectors. So you're gonna remove your connectors from here, 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 and there. And your wire harness is pinned right in here. So you just take your trim tool and get up in between them and pop off your old wire harness. Now that the intake is out of the way, it's time to clean the engine valley and inspect for any leaks. Now that it's clean, go ahead and plug up the ports on the head. Some painter's tape does the trick nice. Now's the time where we're going to trim our block. You need a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch cut right here. So leave you about a 1/4 inch. And then, if you can see, so we are going to remove this piece right here. Now's a good time to go ahead and get rid of your aluminum shavings after that. And now it's time to remove the knock sensor harness so we can take it out and modify it for the lower intake. So you take your knock sensor harness and we're going to remove these 90-degree fittings. Just pry the tab back. And pull your connector out of it. Same thing with this one. Go ahead and split the tape here. You remove those, throw them out. Now take this wire harness and I secure it or have somebody hold it. And split right down the center. Be gentle, make sure you don't cut any wires. can see it wants to open up. Stay away from the wires, but cut the insulation away. You need to go down roughly about 1 inch. Go ahead and seal it back up. We're ready to go back on the car. Now we're going to adjust your knock sensors. Just crack them free. Go ahead and reinstall your knock sensor wiring harness. And you're going to take these all the way out to the edge where they almost touch the side of the head. Once you're tight, make sure that the connector cannot contact the head or you will get false knock. Same thing on the opposite side. Just like that. So now we're going to take our supplied 3-bar map and install it into the back side of the intake. Take a piece of bulk hose, cut to length. Gonna add a little Teflon tape. And take your map into the map block. Perfect. Put your hose clamp on. So now we're going to go ahead and install the intake. You want to go ahead and check for fitment and make sure that you're not contacting the boss that we just previously cut off. Your bolts will come in package, and you tighten these 10mm bolts to 100 inch-pounds and a 30-degree turn afterwards. Before you do your 30-degree turn, come back and make sure that all your fasteners at the same torque. Now comes the 30 degrees. Moving on. Now we're going to remove the harmonic balancer. It's an 18mm bolt. You're going to use your 3-jar puller. Now you want to seal your harmonic balancer where the keyway is notched out. Take you a little RTV. Doesn't need much. Now let's go to the car. Use your harmonic balancer installation tool. We're going to take our brand new crank bolt with our reused washer and we're going to start the torque sequence. This will begin at 103 foot-pounds. So now you're going to want to back this bolt off 360 degrees. And now we're going to advance it to 74 foot-pounds. And lastly, we're going to do a 90-degree turn, which if you want to double check yourself, you can put you a mark at noon. You can put you a mark at 3 o'clock. For us, we'll be using a digital angle finder. Next is a ribbed idler with a bolt. Now we're going to install the boomerang bracket. It's going to require you to remove these 2 bolts off the timing cover and this one off the water pump. You'll notice our shiny new water pump. Whenever you're installing a supercharger, always check your water pump to see if it's leaking or not. This one was leaking, so we went ahead and changed it out. You take your boomerang bracket with your 3 longer bolts. These are number 6 hex heads or number 6 Allen heads, however you want to say it. When installing your idlers, make sure that your C-clip goes towards the inside of the engine. And then your bolt and washer. Now we're going to put our belt and tensioner on. Your kit will come with a new tensioner with a bolt. I take my belt and I flip my belt inside out. Attach it to the tensioner. A little belt routing. Come up underneath your crank, go through the center of your Z bracket. The other side wraps around the bottom of the air conditioning. Comes up over the ribbed idler through the center of the boomerang bracket. Now that you have your belt routing onto the crank, you can go ahead and install your tensioner for your accessory belt. Now we're going to install our water pump pulley and get our accessory drive belt on. Always come back, check your water pump bolts. So I got the fuel rail kit unbagged and all the O-rings put in their appropriate fittings. As you take them out and put your O-rings on, go ahead and lube them. This is passenger front, and passenger rear, driver's rear, and driver's front. You can see on this one is further out than the other one. The one that's further in goes to the fuel rail. I'll take my 10 Allen wrench and hold the fuel rail. And tighten these down. Fuel barrel, you should just have to hold this side and put it on hand tight. Now we're going to move back to the driver's rear. You can go ahead and install your crossover line. Passenger front gets the plug. Goes into the rear of the passenger side, fuel rail. You can hook up your crossover tube. And when you lock down this tube, make sure this is at a 45-degree cant. And lock it down. So when you're in the fuel rail, it should look a little more like this. So when you flex it down. So now we're gonna turn it over and install our injectors. Be sure to lube all O-rings. Now let's get this installed on the intake. You can see now in the back why you want to put this down at a 45-degree angle, how it comes in low behind the intake. You're going to plug in your injectors. Okay, connect your fuel line to your fuel rail. That easy. Now we're going to install your IAT. It is a 19 millimeter. I'm going to take the wiring for it and go ahead and run it back like this. I'm going to take your purge connector and remove the 90-degree standoff. Take your extension harness, run it back. Take your throttle connector. Now you're going to find your map connector in the back and put your map extension harness on. Now we're gonna hook the IAT into the passenger side IMRC connector. Next, we're gonna clean up all the wiring here. So now you can go ahead and clean up your wiring. Zip tie your new wires to the existing wire harness and route it behind the engine, coming out onto the driver's side head. So connect your map sensor. This is your supplied 3-bar map. We're going to secure that in just a minute. And then your passenger side IMRC goes to your 1-bar map. That'll wait for the supercharger. Now we're going to remove the purge line and we're going to save the end. So we're going to go ahead and cut this off. Like that. And with a razor blade at the base, go ahead and split the line on the steel pipe. Careful not to cut your fuel line. And then discard this piece. Now we're going to put our bulk line onto the evap steel pipe. And we're going to leave this and cut to length after we have the supercharger in place. We recommend replacing your spark plugs. NGK 6510s is what we use, and speak to your tuner about gapping. Now we're going to remove your factory 1-bar map from the rear of the intake and put it into the rear of the blower. Now we're done with the factory intake. We can continue building the rear of the supercharger. Take your purge solenoid, lube on the O-ring, and your supplied hardware pack has 2 standoffs on it. Now we're going to supply vacuum to your bypass valve. Take a little blue Loctite. And just cut this to fit. Now that we've installed your purge solenoid, supplied vacuum to your bypass valve, and left the second port open to atmosphere, and installed your original 1-bar map, we're ready to go to the car. With your supplied hardware, you're going to want to take one of the longer bolts. You have one shorter one. You're going to set that off to the side. Take your longer bolt and put it back into the back of the intake. Now you're going to take the crow's foot in the back side of the blower, and you're going to slot it into the existing bolt. This will help you align. You take your one short bolt that goes to the passenger front of the blower. And your driver's side will have 3 bolts. With the Gen3R, you are going to want to get a 6mm ball head Allen to get around the angle of the supercharger because it has a wide profile. Now we're going to connect our factory 1-bar mat. We're going to connect our purge solenoid now. Go ahead and cut the hose to length. Install the connector we've previously saved. And go ahead and connect it with your electrical connector. And we're going to tie up our MAP extension harness and zip tie that in place. Now we're going to install your PCV line. Goes up underneath your heater hose. And then next, your vacuum supply that's plugged up on the back side of your supercharger, the steel line. Take a little assembly lube. And we're going to let that sit here until we get ready to install it. Now we're going to install the supercharger pulley. Now we're going to complete your belt drive and tighten up the tensioner. Now with your belt on, you can secure your pulley bolts. Now we're going to install your throttle body. With this particular throttle body, the connector's on the back side. You're going to want to plug it in and lock it down first. Now we're going to remove the upper trim to the grill. Go ahead and remove your trim here on the side of the grill. Now remove the headlight bezel. It has push pins in it. Just gently pull it back from the grill side to allow access for your 8mm bolt at the bottom. So remove your tins from the top of the grill. Unhook your active grill. Now remove your 8mm. And down the side is your air dam. Go ahead and unclip it from the side of the grill. Repeat with the other side. Just lift up a little bit and pull straight out. Now we're going to remove your lower bumper trim. Just push it out from the back side. Find one of the clips. Go ahead and remove your metal tabs out. And a new trim piece will come in your kit. Now we're going to install your heat exchanger hardware. Remove your 13/16 nuts from the front of the frame. Go ahead and pull the horseshoe bracket out. You're going to want to install your clip up into the frame. Take your horseshoe bracket. Go ahead and snug these down a little. That'll pull your bracket into alignment. Go ahead and add your 13mm bolt and washer. And tighten down your bracket. Now we're going to repeat on the other side. We're going to gain access to the frame by unclipping the air dam. Push this over to the side for now. Go ahead and install your clip. Remove your 13/16 nuts on the front of the bumper. Remove your horseshoe bracket from the inside of the frame. This is the driver's side heat exchanger bracket. You can tell because the inner edge will be pointing towards the heat exchanger. Go ahead, reinstall your horseshoe bracket. Install your 13mm bolt with the washer. You want to make this snug but not tight until the heat exchanger is in place. We'll finish tightening those down after the heat exchanger's in. So now we're going to put the bushings into our heat exchanger. You're always going to take your washer, the metal side, and it presses against the bracket. So unlike a Mustang, these will go in reversed, like that. And then sleeve into them. Repeat on the opposite side. You may need to adjust your tranny cooler line over towards the center of the vehicle to install your heat exchanger. And your heat exchanger will just slide in. Now let's get it bolted down. Install your hardware. Put a washer on your 13mm bolt. Run it from the back side forward. Install your second washer. Go ahead and do the same thing on the bottom. And repeat on the opposite side. Pass your hardware through to the back side. Add your washer and nut. Now let's tighten our assembly down. Now that our heat exchanger is tight on the brackets, we're going to go ahead and secure our bracket. I like to use my foam from the heat exchanger to set my grill on. And take your grill and you're going to remove the two lower shutters on the active grill. These just simply bend out and pop right out. Same thing with the other one. And this piece right here will contact your heat exchanger. So all you do is zip off the edge of it. So now we're going to clearance the back side of the grill for the heat exchanger. If you haven't done it before, this would be the easiest way. Your center mark will be right in between the two fans. Now let's go back over to the grill. So then you align your center mark, the center of the grill. We're going to need to clearance about this much of the grill. Now we're going to install the upper hose to your heat exchanger. You'll notice that one side shaped like this, the other one coils. This goes around the radiator, this goes up to the supercharger. You're going to make you a small hole right here with a razor blade. And just simply fold this back. Take your heater hose. Pull it up through to the supercharger. That should leave you enough slack to get onto the heat exchanger. Go ahead and install your clamp. Now we're going to attach the heater hose from the heat exchanger to the intercooler, come up and run it through the two AC lines. Go ahead and put your clamp on first, then install your line. These turrets are adjustable. You can loosen these up and pivot your turret if your hose is at the wrong angle. Install your clamp. Let's move on. Now that our heat exchanger is in and the heater hose has been completed, we can go ahead and reinstall the grill. It is simply reverse operation of disassembly. Bring it in, lift it up and let it drop into place. Go ahead and secure your air dams to the side. Reinstall your two 8mm. With your 8mm installed, you can secure the headlight bezels. Be sure to line back up the metal tabs. Repeat on the opposite side. Install your 10mm bolts across the top. Don't forget your active shutters. Reinstall your trim. These two push pins will remain open for your air cleaner. And don't forget your headlight bezel push pins. Now that the grille's installed, we can go and install our lower bumper trim. They are just push pins. You've already removed all your metal clips, so this should just simply snap in place. Line it up, add a little force. When you're underneath, you can see that the air dam is blocking airflow. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that out of the way and just simply grab a hold of it, and it's in push pins, and just go ahead and pull it out. Be sure not to tear any of your components like your transcooler lines or anything like that. Just be gentle and it will tear right out, and you can just go ahead and put that in the garbage. So now we're going to install our intercooler pump. Go ahead and put in your clips into the frame. Go ahead and pull the caps off your pump. Install your bolt. Install your second bolt. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. Now we're going to go ahead and connect our heat exchanger to our pump. Just go ahead and get you a straight piece. Measure it out. You'll want to install a little super lube. Put on both your hose clamps. Next, we're going to install the hose onto the front of the pump, and it's going to run up to the degas bottle. So now we're going to route the heater hose up to the degas bottle. It's going to split the frame and the lower radiator support. So you come from the outside of the frame up to the inside of the engine compartment below the lower radiator support. Come up underneath the lower radiator hose right by your ABS pump. Pull your slack through. A little assembly lube goes a long way on your hose. Go ahead and install it and secure your clamp. Easy peasy. So now we're going to modify your heater hose. You're gonna come right back off the bend. Go ahead, clip it here. Go ahead and install your barb, your hose clamp. Take some of your bulk heater hose provided to you in your kit. Now you're going to remove your old clip, your water pump. Just spread these out. Now take your new 90-degree heater hose fitting and go ahead and set it on here so you can get your length. This is going to swoop up underneath your Degas bottle. Install your heater hose clamp and reinstall onto the top of the water pump. You're going to take your bypass tube to your Degas bottle and you're going to gently bring it towards you. Just enough so you can get your bypass tube on there. You're going to reuse your old bypass tube. Now we're going to install our factory Degas bottle. So now we're going to install the Degas bottle for your Supercharger. This is the kit you get with it. Go ahead and remove the zip tie, get the hardware out of the way. You're going to remove the Degas bottle bolt and the bolt for the radiator. Both of these are 10 millimeter. This slides up underneath and in between the fan and the radiator. Don't tighten these, just put them in for location. Now that you've located your plate, you're going to want to mark the fan right down here and remove your bracket. It's a little hard to see my mark on camera, so I'll make sure you guys can see it. There. Go ahead and put you a hole through here. In your hardware kit, you have a standoff. Go ahead and install your clip onto the fan module. You can reinsert the bracket. Take your stand off. Insert your spacers and bolt. And tighten. So number 4 Allen. Now we're simply going to install the Degas. So we're installing the upper heater tube for the intercooler, and we're going to clock this turret to make it a little bit better of an angle. All you're going to do is loosen these. And now your turret will be able to spin up or down. I've always found it easier to go ahead and install your clamp over the turret. Now that we've clocked the turret and we know everything's going to fit, go ahead and install your intercooler hose and come up to the Degas bottle. Cut the fit. Now we're gonna go ahead and trim and install the hose to the intercooler pump. Got to fit. Now we're going to install our heat exchanger wiring. You're just going to pull up your negative battery cable and you're going to secure it to the bottom side of it. Grab your relays. Those are going to go up underneath your upper radiator hose. Take your fuses and secure to the wire coming along the battery box. I unplugged the AC switch, put it back on, get up underneath it. Now go ahead and take your ground cable. I put it right to the battery. Remove the covers to your fuse box. Now we're going to install the power cable to the fuse box. Route it up underneath the fuse box cover. Come through. Remove your 10mm nut from the fuse box. Go ahead and secure. Next, you're going to locate fuse 97. It's a 10-amp fuse in the back of the box. You're going to take your new fuse supplied, hold it so you can make this bend. Go ahead and install that back in location 97. Take your orange wire and clip onto the back of the fuse barb. Verify you have a good connection and go ahead and reinstall your fuse cover. So now you take your wire harness, which is right in between your two AC lines. You're going to run it straight down towards the frame. Come to the inside of the frame and just let it dangle out of the bottom side of the vehicle. Now all you do is grab a hold of your wire harness that's on the inside of the frame rail. Continue pulling it down. Connect your fans in. Connect your pump. And I secure this to the back side of the heat exchanger. Now it's time to install your cold air and modify your vacuum lines. Your cold air will come disassembled, but this is the assembly with the air filter mount, the coupler with the bands, the extension tube, and the coupler to the throttle body with bands. You're going to want to remove this fitting. And install this supplied in your kit. You're also going to want to install your MAF block off. This will come in your kit. Now we're going to modify your vacuum lines. This will be coming from your brake booster. This is coming from your rear of your intake. This is going to the front of your intake, and this will be going to your air cleaner. You're going to want to cut this hose right here. Remove this. This will now go to your air cleaner with supplied bulk hose. This piece will be cut off and plugged. This piece going to the front of your intake will be removed So now we're left with going to the brake booster. We're going to shorten these two hoses. Go ahead and retain your clips and your check valve. Now take your original line to the front of the intake. You're going to about 2 inches on each one. And just so you can get a visual representation, this one will be connected to the air cleaner, and this goes to the back of your supercharger. Let's go ahead and get this installed on the car. So now hook up your vacuum line back to your brake booster. And go ahead and install the vacuum line. Now install your PCV line. Now we're going to install the fuel system booster in the passenger rear of the truck. So you're going to gain access by flipping down the seat and removing your jack. Next, you're going to pull up your scuff plate inside the door and remove your rear quarter trim panel by pulling out this seal. This will allow you to gain access to the clips. Go ahead and slide your quarter trim forward. Gain access to the back of your trim panel. Next, you'll have 2 push pins. Go ahead and remove those 2 push pins. And simply fold the rear carpet back to gain access. Now that you've gained access to your rear cab vent, you're going to want to take one of the bars out. Take the female side of your extension harness and run it towards the outside of the vehicle and push down. Now we'll install the fuel system booster. So now take your double-sided Velcro. Get your fuel system booster. Go ahead and install it on the back side of your fuel system booster. Remove your wire harness clip so you can push the fuel system booster back further. Go ahead and secure it. Take your ground cable and remove the factory ground. It's an 8mm bolt. Reinstall your factory ground. Take your extension harness and plug into your fuel system booster. And go ahead and secure your wiring. Now reinstall your interior trim panels. Now we're going to show modifications to the FPDM. JD is going to hit you with a quick clip to show it off the vehicle. I'm going to show you how to modify this FPDM for 15 plus Mustangs and F-150s to fit our jumper harness. If you can look at it side by side, this part right here will not fit into there. Also, with this other side, you're going to need to trim this ear as well. So first we're going to take our special service tool and we're going to shave our ear off of this. And it is that easy. And then next we're going to take this ear off the FPDM. This is a little easier when it's mounted in the car. And then I'm going to get up underneath there and show you how to do it on the vehicle. So just go ahead and push the connector straight down from the top. Get it up out of the way. This is sitting right over the edge of the fuel tank. Make sure you hear the connector click and go ahead and install your factory connector. Make sure you hear it click. Now we're going to get our jumper harness onto here. So now take your jumper harness and run it over the top of the frame, in between the cab mount and the bed mount. Go over the top of the muffler, and then you're going to go ahead and click in to your FPDM jumper harness. Take your excess wiring and go ahead and pull back into the cab and secure your wiring. So now plug your extension harness into your jumper. Pull your excess wires back up into the cab and secure your wiring away from your exhaust or any rotating members. Now we're going to airlift your system. Let's go ahead and airlift your Supercharger intercooler system. We like to change the color of our coolants so we know which side is leaking if you ever do get a leak. Now go ahead and reconnect your battery. And that concludes the installation of this Gen3R on a 15 to 17 F-150. We hope you liked the video, and if you'd like to see more, please like, share, and subscribe.